Hello and welcome to Art and Self. I am Cindy Ingram, your host and the founder of Art Class Curator, Curated Connections, and the Art and Self Connection Circle. And I'm also the author of the new book, Art is About Being Whole, a Memoir. This is the podcast where we experience the range and depth of what it means to be human, seen through our connections and conversations about intriguing works of art. These art conversations are here to show you that art is here for you as a catalyst, a challenger, a coach, and a comfort. If you love listening to these insightful conversations and want more connected content about connecting with art, I invite you to check out my new book, Art is About Being Whole, coming out on October 31st, 2023. You can get more information and sign up for book updates at artisaboutbeingwhole.com. Hello, I am so excited to welcome Carol LeBlanc to the podcast. Hello, Carol.
Hello, Cindy. Thank
So
you for
excited to
having
have
me.
you. Yeah, thank you for
you.
coming. Before we get started, can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes, I'm Carol LeBlanc, and my business is called Love Your Numbers Now, and we focus on providing bookkeeping services to online business owners and also financial forecasting.
And I worked with Carol for, I don't know, 5 years maybe. So Carol and I have spent, I guess in some capacity, we've been in each other's lives since 2018. So all sorts of different capacities. And so Carol and I have had a lot of amazing conversations about a lot of things. And I invited her to be on the podcast last year when I restarted it with this new format. And she is the only one, and I still feel terrible about this, but she's the only one who I booked for the podcast who then I couldn't find the right art choices for. And I was like, I tried so hard, and it's so important to me to bring like the right art. And apparently artists don't make a lot of art about money. I'm learning, or I learned in that process.
That's actually very interesting. We could talk about that for a while.
I know. I was like, oh, there's something to that. Like art and money, they don't mix. Artists don't like to talk about money. Like it's a whole, there's the whole starving artist thing. Like it's really kind of fascinating. But what I wanted to do for this episode, or for leading up to the publication of my book, which is coming October 31st, I wanted to have a few episodes where I talk about artworks from the book. And then when I was doing that and looking at the artworks and thinking who would I invite to talk about an artwork with, I was like, oh, this one's perfect for Carol. So I was so excited that I finally get to have you on the podcast. So thank you for your patience with me on that.
Oh, me too. I mean, divine timing. That's all I have to say about that.
Indeed. Yeah, it was really important to me to have the right art for each guest. And I didn't want to just put some, it felt wrong unless I was 100% sure of whatever the art was. So, yeah, but I know this is because we've had a lot of conversations that fit this artwork exactly. So,
I can't wait to see it.
Yes. And then, so Carol hasn't seen the book yet. And I have sent it to her, but she hasn't read this chapter. So she's coming in fresh. I, of course, wrote a whole chapter about it. So I have a lot of thoughts already about it. So I'll try to allow Carol to speak too. So, okay. And also I'm going to tell you the title, but don't think too hard about the title, but it's for our listeners to know what we're talking about. And this is Grow with Progress by Erik Johansson. And I'm about to show it to Carol. And you can look at this artwork on the show notes. And also, I have talked about his art before on the podcast. If you like this artwork and you want to learn and you want to keep exploring his artwork more, you can go back to the episode I did with Megan Winkler. And we talked about his artwork there. Okay, so can you see the artwork, Carol?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so first, tell me what your first reactions are, and then will you describe it for our listeners?
Yeah, my first reaction was kind of shocked by it. And then seeing okay, well, I'll describe it first and then I'll just tell you what shocked me. So
sounds great.
It is a scene. I can see the ocean a little bit of the ocean peeking through in the distance, which is kind of exciting. It's like, what is over there? But there's a lot of rocks, kind of like, gosh, I'm thinking about like an old Star Trek set, where they look kind
Yeah.
of fake. Do you know what I mean? When
I
they
do. I
like
know
land
exactly
in
what
a
you mean.
land that is mysterious and no one's ever seen this land before, because there's all these rocks and desert plants growing out of rocks. And then there is a woman at the bottom on the left. She's at the bottom of a staircase and she is small. She's tiny. And then the stairs, as they go up to the top, going to the right, it's tiny stairs that grow bigger. And then there's the same, what we think is the same woman, because
Mhm.
she's wearing the same dress at the top, but she's much bigger. But we can only see like her legs and, up to maybe her knees. So it looks super interesting. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah. I like to add to anything in the description, but yeah, you got the description. Like the size difference though, I'm going to hold my fingers up to the computer. Uh, her total height at the bottom is like goes up to mid calf at the top. Like that's how much bigger she is. Like probably 10 times, maybe 10 times bigger at the top than at the bottom.
At least like the top looks like a giant
Yeah.
compared to the bottom
Yeah.
person. She's grown a lot.
Indeed. Indeed. Okay. So what was your first reaction?
I mean, I think it was that I'm looking at her, what we can see of her legs, and she does look like a giant to me. So there's something
Mhm.
like otherworldly about it. Like I'm kind of like, I didn't expect the artwork to look so realistic, the scene.
Yeah.
And then the difference between the sizes of the woman seems like such a fantasy. So it's interesting that I'm kind of going like, my first reaction was like, what is this? Like, how does this make sense in my brain that it's like a
Yeah.
realistic scene with something so unreal?
Yeah. And too, I bet you coming in, you're like, oh, it could be a painting, it could be a sculpture. Like, what could it be? And then I bring a photograph and you're like, that's probably too an unexpected um thing. Oh, and I don't think we
Right.
told the listeners this is a photo. It's clearly an edited photograph, but it is a photograph.
Maybe that was I'm sure that's part of the shock.
Yeah.
Was like, what is this? Okay, because I did expect it to be an artwork, like a painting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
This is the first time, well, it's not the first time I've seen it since I saw the Barbie movie, but I haven't written about it or like put a lot of thought into the artwork since I saw the Barbie movie. And now it's reminding, did you see the Barbie movie?
I just saw it last weekend.
Oh, perfect timing. So
Yeah.
the girl at the top, the big one reminds me of the beginning of the Barbie movie when she's like that giant Barbie at like the Planet of the Apes scene. And she's just like standing there. Like, that's what it feels like to me. It's just like this giant Barbie in that black and white like swimsuit, um, with
Yeah,
that like
like
music playing.
the mix of fantasy and reality.
Yeah, totally. Okay. All right. So what do you want to talk about first with this? What is like your first interpretation or your first thought, or where's your brain going?
I mean, the staircase going up, the increase in size of the steps, and the increase in size of her, and also the view, her vantage point. So when she's at the
Yeah.
bottom of the steps, she cannot see the ocean from there. But when she's at the
Yeah.
top of the steps, she can see like limitless, I feel.
Yeah.
So those are my first impressions of like, what is this? The name of it, growth with progress. So as she's climbing the staircase, not only does she grow I mean, this is only portraying size, which is the way that it can be portrayed visually. I'm
Yeah.
sure that also is a lot of other things in that growth. And then also how she sees things is different.
Mhm. Yeah, at the bottom, and too, like it makes me think of her when you were talking about her vantage point, like her the way she's stepping too. So like at the bottom, she's completely surrounded by rocks. She's got this very daunting staircase in front of her. Like the top stair is like half her height. So, she would have to like, I don't, I mean, she could probably get up it,
Yeah.
if she tried really hard, depending on her strength level, but like not, she couldn't step up it, obviously. And then she can't see the ocean, but she is stepping forward towards the staircase and like looking up, like there's this kind of momentum. But then when you get to the top, her feet are like planted flat, and she's just standing still. And there's like this kind of groundedness to it. Like she's arrived and she can see like the whole horizon of the ocean and the waves and the, whatever else, the expansiveness of the
Yeah.
world.
She looks very solid up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like she has arrived.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Yeah.
And in my book, this is the chapter that so for those of you, I mean, I guess you haven't read it yet because this is being posted before it goes live, but each chapter is an artwork that I interpret and tell a story from my life at the same time. And so this chapter was a story of the growing of my business, how I started from and how I like made the decision to start, and why I started it, and then like what happened along the way, and like what growth that I had, along the way of starting my business. Can you see like just with that little bit, like, do you see that in this artwork, and can you relate to that at all?
The growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think about a lot of things are coming into my mind right now of like, um, to get up the lower stairs that are in line with her height at the bottom, like she could easily climb those,
Mm-hmm.
but then she would have to figure out, like she would have to grow to climb the higher stairs, is I feel like what the artwork is portraying.
Yeah.
And so that journey in business, is that what we're talking
Yeah.
about?
Journey in business. Yep.
Journey. So that journey in business is like to be able to actually climb, to step up the other steps at the end, at the top. She actually has to grow herself
Mm-hmm.
physically. I mean, but this is all metaphor. But she has to grow herself to be able to easily climb those stairs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think this is a really good portrayal of that, the business journey of you do change and grow. I mean, I look back at my business journey and things that I can handle easily now. I used to have, an hour long phone call with somebody to talk it through. like,
Yeah.
like I'm like literally a different person, and you are too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's
and,
like everything in business, and it's like it's the tasks you need to learn too, like so you grow, like, oh, okay, I don't know how to do something, then you got to teach yourself how to do it, and then you got to learn to do it, and then eventually you're like, how to do it really easily. But there's also like the emotional side of it, of like what I'm going through now, is like getting early feedback on my book, and like it's at the beginning, if anybody sent me any sort of feedback, whether it was good or bad, like it scared the crap out of me. Like if I would get one email that was even maybe a slightly, that I could interpret even as slightly critically, like it would send me on a spiral for like at least a week of anxiety, and then now it's like I can just let it in and then let it out. And like there's so many like little things you have to do to grow a business, that it's not just like performing a bunch of tasks. It's like so emotional, like deep emotional growth too, which is I don't know that anyone told me that at the beginning. I don't
oh,
remember anybody telling me that.
I definitely learned that from the beginning. Um, Listening to Allie Brown, and it was just like the best personal development route would be to have a business. I've always heard that.
Oh,
Um, and that's been really true for me. I mean, I think when you're talking about like the task and everything, I'm like, oh, the tasks are easy.
yeah.
Even if they're hard, they're easy compared to the emotional
Yeah.
stuff that you have to learn. So you're
Yeah.
growing so much right now just doing this book launch.
Yeah, the book was the same thing. That's what Heather, my book coach, says. She was like, the best self-development is writing a book. And I'm like, you are 100% right. Like it was just a revolutionary process to go through.
Yeah.
What let's talk about her, like at the bottom, and like what it's like for her in her current vantage point. Like, what is she thinking and feeling? Any thoughts on her?
Well, what's capturing my attention about that is the photograph shows the staircase that's directly in front of her, and
Mm-hmm.
it seems like that's the path um, to her ascension.
Yeah.
And I'm also noticing that on both sides of her, there's all these rocks that she could scramble around. So I'm wondering what do you think about that in this photograph? Because I'm kind of seeing like it seems actually a little easier to go up the rock scramble to me than to climb that staircase.
Yes.
That's
I agree. Yeah, it's like, and I think that's often true of anybody like starting something new. Um, like especially when I started making art again for the first time, and I had this like thought that, okay, I need to make art. My first immediate thoughts were, this is the way to do that, and this is the only way to do that. Like, I need to make paintings, I need to sell them, and like this is the thing I have to do. And then I started to think, I'm like, wait, no, that's, where did I get that idea that that was the only way to do something? And I think that when starting anything, we always have this like, okay, this is how I have to do it. I have to take these steps because this is what the other people that have done, who've gotten to where I want to go, that's what they've done. So this is the path I'm going to take. So it's like she's not even considering um the other path uh of the rocks. It does look a lot easier.
doesn't it look easier? So I'm kind of
Yeah.
confused by that. So maybe that's about how we do think that things are a linear path, but
Mm-hmm.
then we know that business and life is not, that we go forward and then we go back and then like you saying,
Yeah.
I can read the email and it's going to take me a week to recover. That's like a little dip and and then you're back, but then you actually are higher after having gone through that. And so
Yeah.
that's maybe when one of the stairs grows, or you grow to be able to meet that next stair, that next level.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't really know. I feel like she doesn't see that there's any other way around the staircase. Maybe she has to go up the staircase to have the growth, is
Yeah,
what it seems,
maybe.
because that's where she gets big at the end,
Yeah.
is
And
by
it's almost like, I think this is true for anything, but when you start a business, and if you start to follow a lot of the people out there that are teaching about online business, all they do is they talk about 10xing your growth and scaling and getting bigger. And every year you're bigger than you were before. And then you keep getting bigger and you keep going up and up. And then in an end. And so that is kind of what I expected when I started. And it was true for a very long time. Like, I started in 2014, 2015 was a little better than 2014, 2016 was better than 2007. Like, it kept it every year, it was a little bit better. And then 2020 hit and it was a lot of bit better because that was a good year for my business. And then it went down. And then I was like, I think that shock of like expecting every year to be better than the year before it. And then I had this like best year ever. And then I'm thinking, how in the world could I ever top that? Because there was a whole like world event that caused it. And then I had to go through like a lot of emotions of, um, of like, I often would call it a failure. But if you look at my numbers, it's like, oh no, my numbers are higher than they were the year before the big year. But it's not realistic to expect that every step you take, you're gonna get incrementally bigger, and then you're gonna just keep going up and up forever. Like that's not how life or business works. There's always dips. There's always like resting seasons. There's always there's creative times, and then there's growth times, and there's rest times. It's really unrealistic, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Unless you are not allowing yourself to change course. So you know how I can relate to what you said. Every year it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that I had the same experience in my business. And then now that I've allowed myself to do some different things, I've noticed that there's a little bit more of a fluctuation year to year. It's starting to happen that way. And it makes sense that if you're somebody who allows yourself to take a rest, or to say, I've been doing business this way for so long, and now I want to reinvent something, which means you have to let go of something to make some space, which means your revenue is going to go down a little bit before it goes up because of the new thing is taking off. I think that growth at all costs, and then, is there, I think there are businesses that don't tap into creativity as much, maybe, that can just always be going up. But if we add the creativity in, because you and
Yeah.
I have both done that in our business, we have a little parallel thing where we were like, okay, we want to try something a little different, and we allowed ourselves to let go of some things.
Yeah.
But not a lot of traditional businesses, like, say, I'm just thinking of like corporate businesses,
Right.
like they're not going to allow themselves to go and be creative for a minute too much. They might try some things, but they're pretty much going to have to keep on escalating.
That's
Where,
true. Yeah.
you
This is
know,
very much like a solo, or not like a small business, a very like passion driven um business too, where it's like you're really passionate about what you're doing. And I think too, one of the things that like that I've learned is that like one of the things of this artwork, I think that it doesn't say is like the permission to change your mind and to go a different way.
yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I'm like, this
Yeah.
isn't showing, it's showing a linear road. Even though it's showing the growth, it's not showing the zigs and zags, unless
Mm-hmm.
she decided to go up on those rocks.
Yeah. Or turn around and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't even want to go to the ocean. Like, what if I, what if I like want to go to the mountains instead? Like, why does it, why do I have to go that way?
Yeah.
Um, and so it's like, yeah, it's a very, like, it feels so like simplistic. And I also think about too, like, if we attach it to like other things, like, I hate bringing weight loss into it. I'm not advocating weight loss with this conversation, with comments.
Disclaimer.
This is like
Oh,
a past me, like, example of like, I would go on this diet and I'd be like, okay, I'm going on this diet. And if I lose 2 pounds a week, then I will hit my goal by such and such date. And then you do all the math and you're like, okay, I'm going to be there in 6 months or however, 2 years or however many, I was like, well, if I lose 1.5 pounds, then I'll be there at this time, and every time I did that, and never, one, because 98% of diets fail according to science, but never did that happen according to that plan, because you don't know, like you can't predict the future. You don't know
yeah,
what's going to
life
happen.
life
Yeah.
happens. You
Yeah.
have a week where you can't work out, or somebody got sick, and you can, do all your meals away, all the things
Yeah.
that you think you can control, you know,
Yeah.
isn't that's not really how life is.
So,
So we're seeing something missing from the artwork in the business journey. If we're relating this to the business journey, is that
yeah.
it isn't, even though there is the growth we're totally in agreement with, but we're
Hmm.
not in agreement with this linear portrayal of, and also just this one final destination.
Yeah.
But I do feel like she's at the top going, I could do anything, because when you're looking at the vastness of the ocean, um,
Yeah.
that's like a real place of possibility to me, like just what it represents.
Yeah, I loved like looking at her, and she's so big, and like you can see like evidence of the wind, like her dress is kind of a little flowing over. You can like the plants aren't very, you can't, they're not showing the wind, but you can kind of like get the sense of the wind, and you just know that the
Mhm.
beaches are windy. Um and then like you can see the clouds and you can see the sky, and like she's so grounded, and it looks so good and peaceful and wonderful, like to be there at the top. And now she has like this space of possibility and um empowerment, and she can do whatever she wants now. She went through the hard part, um and now she can go anywhere she wants.
Yeah, and it's funny that you brought up diet because as I would kept on saying like she's bigger, I kept hearing myself say,
Mm,
and then I thought, oh, why am I saying she's bigger? Because I'm not meaning that to be like a bad thing, but I didn't want it to
yeah.
come across that way. But now I'm seeing it as like she's taking up more space. She's
Yes.
allowed herself to, I'm just to stand at the top of the staircase and be like kind of as big as the ocean in a way. Like she's not down here in this valley anymore, all sheltered by the rocks. She's also
Yeah.
taking risks. She feels more safe in her space,
Yes, and
maybe.
she's more exposed up there too. Like, um, there's safety in kind of hiding in the rocks and in the small spaces. And you can protect yourself more. You can like hide. There's plenty of places to hide. When she's up there, she's just like fully up there. And we can't see at all her body, but I can just imagine like her shoulders are back and her like arms are kind of like spread out with her palms open. Like I can just see that
Yeah.
like she's just fully taking
She's a
up
rock.
all that
Yeah.
space. Yeah,
Yeah. I like that.
I do
The
too.
yeah.
Because we don't, especially women, we're taught to stay small, make our bodies, work to make our bodies small, work to be meek, and to not to make any waves or upset anyone. And we're not taught to be big and bold and take up space in the world. And
Why do
yeah,
why are we taught to be smaller? I mean, I know why, but why?
patriarchy comes up every
Yeah,
time.
no,
every
exactly.
every time. Always comes up. Back to the Barbie movie again.
Right, right. I think that's something too, like that I feel like just like in the last year or so of my life, I just turned 55. It's like I feel like I've finally given myself permission to take up space, to
Mm,
say, this body is my body. It's gonna change, of course, but there's no new body that the quest for to be a different person,
yeah.
and so I don't know if this relates, but it's also kind of like just stepping into your power of like, this is who I am, and this is how much space I take up in the world, and how much space I give myself permission to take up in the world at this point,
Mm,
when I've overcome, all these messages from society that want me to be small.
yeah.
When I first started in business, I got some message. I don't know what happened to you, Cindy, but like, oh, you're gonna quit your job and start a business? Like, are you sure that's a good idea? Like, is that gonna work out? Like people were nervous for me, afraid. Some people couldn't even conceive of the idea of doing such a thing.
Yeah.
And I just remember being kind of shocked by that because to me um it seemed like the thing to do.
Yeah. And
Like,
that makes me look back at her at the bottom, and like thinking about you making that decision. And uh yeah, like she's like confidently stepping forward. She's
mhm.
looking up to the future. And the fact that she isn't looking at all the other paths and looking at all of the other dangers and all of the other things, like she's like, no, I'm going to do this. And she sees how hard it's going to be. She knows it's going to be hard, but she knows it's the right thing for her to do. Like she feels like she has to do it. And so she's made that step forward. And I think a lot of people like want to do something like what we're doing in our lives, but that fear of taking that first step, like they never actually do it. They just think about it for so long. That first step is like the heart. it's funny because there is no step. There's no, the stairs are not there. You know, she hasn't even made it to the stairs yet. But like that first step is probably the hardest one.
For me, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Was it scary for you?
Um, no. I say that I'm like, oh, all these people are scared. But I'm talking about other people that I've witnessed to say, oh, I want to do this and this, but then they don't do it. I have always been a risk. I like run to risk, you know, that kind of thing. It's like, the minute I had the idea I was doing it, I didn't even think twice. It was scary when I did quit my job, because I did it. I had a job and I started the business. But when I officially decided to quit the job, I mean, I was a little bit scared, but I saw like I grew the business to this point, and I saw my full-time job as a hindrance to success at that point, because I was like, all the time that I'm there, imagine what I could do in that time. So it was, yeah, it wasn't as scary as I think maybe I'm more scared now. I'm more scared now than I was then. Oh, that's weird.
Well, you're in a reinvention
Yeah.
space. Where do you feel like you are on that staircase?
I feel like
Are
I'm
you
at
at
the
the top?
top.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like you're at the top too, and you're like, what is next?
Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm here and this is amazing. And it's like, I don't want to fall back. I don't want to fall down the stairs. Um, but it's almost like it's like I'm facing a new staircase. No, I'm not, because I don't even know what the goal is anymore. I think that's what's weird is I'm here and I don't know. I kind of know what I want, but I don't really know what I want. And that feels really weird because I had such a strong goal for so long. I had those stairs to climb up. And
Right. Yeah.
I climbed them, and then I wrote a book about the process of climbing them. And at the end of my book, and like at the epilogue, I'm like, this is the end of the book, but this is a beginning. Like this is like, who am I now that I've like conquered the staircase, I guess.
Yeah, looking at the vastness of the ocean and the world and like what's next, kind of
Yeah.
saying what's next. But you know
Yeah.
you're not going to walk down the stairs. You'd walk down the stairs, you'd be in a giant in a small space.
Oh,
It
that,
wouldn't even
oh,
fit. There's no way it would fit. So I like the idea of thinking like, what if she turned around and went back down and she was still her with all the growth that she's experienced and she
oh,
couldn't even go back down.
yeah, that's right. There, you like, it's like one of there's some saying or phrase, or maybe it was a coach I used to have that would say this, but it was like, once you know something, you can't, yeah, you can't unknow it. And yeah, I think especially I'm thinking about it, especially with like my mental health journey, which was what, the book is primarily about. It talks about the business as kind of a part of it, but really it's about my mental health. But it's like, I can't unlearn like the wholeness and the love that I've learned for myself. Like, I mean, every now and then that comes, it kind of comes back, and you're like, ooh, there it is again. But, um, that's interesting.
It is
Where are you?
interesting.
Where are you in the artwork?
Where am I in the artwork? I would say that I am not at the top of the staircase. I would say, what keeps on drawing my attention is the three stairs at the top. Do you see how they have all the kind of like um at the bottom of the stair, it's kind of brittle, like it is crumbling
Yeah,
a little bit.
yeah,
And it's kind I don't know why my eye keeps being drawn to that. So I feel like I'm kind of in that area, like I'm definitely up at the top part of it. Um I feel like I'm on the fourth stair down to be specific. Like I've climbed a big staircase. I've grown a lot and there's more. There's another level um of work that I'm going to be doing in the world and it's still very related to what I'm doing, but So I don't know why I don't want to put myself at the top of the stairs. Because as I'm saying this, I'm like, why is Cindy at the top and I'm not at the top? Why am I, like, uh, so I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I just feel like
Ooh,
I still have a lot of growth to let go of maybe some of the work that I'm still doing that I feel like in my future I won't be. And I know that there's going to be some other thing that's happening that hasn't totally shown itself, but has shown itself a little, and I've done it a
yeah.
little, so it's still an in-between place. And there's a lot of growing that's going to still happen in the next, I feel, 20 years of my career.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel that truth too, of being at the top of the stairs. Like, I don't feel like I'm as grown as I ever will be, because I know I have a lot of life left. And I know that whatever I do next, there's going to be more. And it's just maybe I don't know. I don't really fully know what's next. And I don't know what my challenges are. And that maybe you do know what your challenges are now. And so like you just have a few more to work through. And I'm going to meet a lot of new challenges. I just don't know what they are yet.
Yeah, so I'm towards the top of my current staircase because I can still see those top stairs. You're at the top because you're at the bottom of another staircase that you don't see yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to wander around a little and
Hmm.
maybe just enjoy where I'm at
Maybe take a
for a
swim.
while. Oh, that feels very uncomfortable and good at the same time. We live in America. We're supposed to always be working hard towards something. I can't just go do nothing. Swim.
Oh, that. So that makes me want to talk about forecasting
Oh, yes, do.
because I mean, I feel like that's one of the things, when I think of like my forecasting stories or like the things that I take away from like times with clients is like how when we do our forecast and look into the future of what our numbers are, we could buy into the growth at all costs. We got to grow, grow, grow. Or we could say, okay, we actually have a steady business that provides a good income that's profitable. We have some cash saved up, and we could give ourselves time to rest. And that's exactly what you were able to do.
Yeah.
And because you were able to see your numbers, it allowed you, like how you said, it feels scary and did you say exciting or good?
Yeah, something else. I
Um,
don't remember. It was a good thing.
yeah, so knowing what your numbers are into the future can give you that permission to go and take that rest. And I felt like that was something for your mental health
Yeah.
that was really, really needed. And the forecasting supported that in a way where you could go. I mean, I feel like I don't know if this is what you did, but I'm having an image of getting off of our forecasting meetings and you just like going, I can go back to bed right now because that's
Yep.
what I need to do. And I
Yeah.
know I'm not going to go broke because I have this profit coming in and I have enough money to get me through a period of time. And then you also took that time to write your book.
Hmm.
And there was another big space that you needed for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're listening and you're like, wait, what are you talking about forecasting? Carol helps businesses with the bookkeeping, but then you have a meeting where you project what you think is going to happen for the next 3 months. And well, even beyond 3 months and a lot of things, since you can kind of look to see what's going to happen the next few months and what it was so wonderful for me is I've always lived in this sort of space of uneasiness around money, always this feeling of like waiting for something bad to happen. And then also feeling like things were out of control. And so I would go to these meetings with Carol and I'd be like, oh, nothing is out of control. Look, I know what's happening now. I know what happened last month and I know what's going to happen the next few months. And so I can like take a breath and like allow myself to like relax a little bit. And it's pretty incredible what I learned through that process. Like even now, like my husband has been laid off a few times because he's in the tech industry, so that just happens in that industry a lot too. But like, and right now his job is he's just like between projects, but he's still employed or whatever. But now there's this feeling of, oh God, what if he doesn't get another project? What's going to happen? But like, I'm not even worried about it for some, because now like I learned through working with Carol for 5 years that I can handle I'm good at what I do, and I'm good at making the right decisions. I'm good at taking the risks when I need to take the risks, and so, yeah, like I learned so much about like myself and what's possible. And yeah, through that process.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what happens.
Yeah.
And it can support you on this growth journey,
Yeah.
to know, like, I mean, I'm sure there's other things too besides being in touch with the numbers that are part of the concrete of the steps. It's like
Mm-hmm.
these steps are solid. Well, even though I'm seeing that, I feel like I'm attracted to the crumbling of it.
Yeah.
But even though it feels like there are some places that are a little crumbly, overall it's a very solid staircase. So what is that? Is that trust in life? Is that trust in ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think that trust in yourself thing is really like one of the number one things that I had to learn to get to the top of the stairs. Because I mean, I always had faith in my business from the beginning. But I outsourced a lot of the creativity to other people. So like I would take a course and I would do the things the way they would do it. And I would, use the scripts that they said to use and the processes that they said to use, because even if it didn't feel like, oh, I don't know if this feels right to me, I'm like, well, they're the expert. I'll do what they say. And then now I feel like I trust myself more than anything else than some other teacher that I come across. It's not that I don't get support from other people and run things by other people and talk things out, but like in the end, I know what I'm capable of, and I trust the decisions that I make. That's really pretty amazing because I didn't trust that for my whole life.
I can totally relate to that. I feel like me growing in my decision making confidence has been a huge part of this journey up the staircase, because I mean, like, I used to I had an accountability partner. We would talk all the time. I mean, a decision I make now, I mean, an hour conversation. It's like, really, like, I used to have to spend an hour to make this decision. And now it's like, I can just go and check in with myself or sit and do some writing. And I know what's right, the right decision to make, and the confidence that you get through climbing that
Yeah.
is just unbelievable.
Yeah. And like we're taught in education that all of the answers are somewhere else. You're in your biology class and you're taught the answers are in the textbook, and then these are the things, and you're in the other class and the answers are always in the expert and the teacher and the book and the everything else. Even people going to art museums, they're taught the answers are on the museum labels, and that's where they should be looking to get to the answers. And I have learned that, I mean, yes, there are things to learn and to like Google, but in most cases, like I have everything that I need already in me. And if we could just get people to believe that about themselves, and students, and like they don't need to keep looking to other people to be their saviors and to have all their answers.
Yeah. I mean, one of the most, it just makes me think about like what I used to tell my kids, like one of the most things I'm proud of as a parent is always directing my kids back to themselves. Like, what do you think? How do you feel? Trust yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like if we could learn that from so early, then we would just it would be just a game changer. But I didn't learn that either. I took me so long to get a sense of self.
Yeah.
I used to not even know, like, how did people even know what they like? I didn't even know what I liked about anything, as a younger person.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I
Yeah.
look
It's like,
back, but I
who
see
am
it
I?
too. Yeah, who am I? And then you're looking at everybody else going, oh, well, that must be the way to be. That must be the way to be. And it's like, no, no, that's not right for you because you're yourself.
Yeah. I'm remembering the Barbie movie. And again, I just watched it a couple days ago again. I saw it in the theaters, then I just watched it like, I don't know, a few days ago. And we were having my kids and I were having this discussion. My daughter watched it with some friends after at a sleepover recently. And she was like, the such and such person and whoever, they all think that Barbie and Ken should have gotten together at the end. And I was like, that's how it should have ended. I was like, what? I was like, that is the complete opposite of what the movie was. But at the end, what was so beautiful at the end is she was just like, I don't know who I am. And Ken was like, I don't know who I am without Barbie. And Barbie's like, I don't know who I am either. And so she goes out to like figure out who she is. And I'm like, I never would have expected the Barbie movie to come up like 400 times, but I guess I just so see it in this artwork for some reason.
I'm glad I just watched it. But I know he was like, I am nothing without your gaze, Barbie.
Yeah.
That's what he said. And I was like, wow, that is like a huge thing. He was so not everything, all his validation was coming from from Barbie, poor Ken. He was
Yeah.
like just he existed for Barbie.
Yeah. And I think a lot of women, especially, like have that same thing happen when they get to be like 40s and 50s and like their kids are getting older and they're suddenly like, wait, I'm not like a caregiver anymore. I'm not, what like I've been just doing all these things for so long, but like what have I been doing for myself? And what do I even like? It's that's like that's that bottom of the stairs place. That's like having that realization and taking the first step forward to figure out who you are. Yeah, so maybe this whole artwork too is like the process of discovering who she is. At the beginning, she knows that there's something to discover, and then at the end, she's figured out who she is and now what's possible.
Okay, yes, let's talk about flat feet because
The Barbie movie again too. Sorry.
so do you see at the bottom where
Mhm.
one of her feet is flat and one of her feet is shaped like the
Yep.
Barbie in the heels,
Yep.
and at the top her feet are totally flat. So I just had to bring that up because I've been thinking about that the first time you brought the Barbie movie, and she goes, if my feet were really shaped like this, I would never wear these kinds of shoes. And I was like, who told women to wear these shoes that don't fit our feet? I want to know, do you know the origin of high heels?
I don't know.
Like, was it a man's idea or a woman's idea?
I'm gonna
Because
have to Google this.
it's just crazy, the whole
Yeah.
I'm just sorry. I don't know if that had anything to do with what
No,
you
I
said,
love it.
but I just so you said a few things. You said down at the bottom you think she doesn't know who she is. Do you think she just hasn't discovered it yet because she hasn't been on the journey? Is
Yeah,
that what
like
I
maybe she's at that place of realization of that kind of reckoning place of there's something not right in my life and I want to change it. And I know there's something to discover. And so she's starting along the path.
right?
But then
There's
this though,
more.
now that I'm looking at it though, she's looking up as if she knows she knows the ending. No,
Well,
but
it's
then I guess her view, she doesn't see herself there.
well, because you had said earlier too, and I wanted to ask you about this, but you said she knows how hard it's going to be, and I don't know that she does because how could she?
Right.
Like, because I don't know, can she see the whole, can she see it? I think she can see it, but
Yeah.
how would she know like how hard it's going to be to get up there until she does it? So I'm just kind of wondering about that too.
Oh,
Like,
that's interesting.
because I didn't know how hard I mean, business, I think I probably thought it was going to be hard, but I was always good at business. Kids, I
Hmm.
never thought it would be this hard. Like that, if I would say raising kids, that would be like
Yeah.
one place in my life where I didn't have any clue. But I wanted to go forward. I knew I wanted to go forward. I wanted to have a baby, but I didn't know how hard. Like I could never have imagined how hard it would be to get to climb.
That's true.
So I'm just wondering.
That's true. And do you ever get to the top as a parent?
I think there's peace at some point because I'm starting to kind of like now that I have adult children, like I know I observed this in my parents that they both got to a point where they were just like, I've done my best.
Yeah.
And I can't undo anything that I messed up on. And and I feel like I'm starting to see that and maybe go towards that direction, but I think, but you never stop being a parent
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, that's interesting. Is it? Yeah, it's so interesting to look at this through all the different like life things. Oh, there was something I was going to say about, I thought that was related to this, but then I lost it. Oh, I remember. Okay. Um, I do want to get to that place of peace with parenting, but I've got a long way away. My kids are still too young. Um, uh, I often in the book, and I did an interview yesterday for a podcast that's coming out later this month, and I talk about like the layers I had to remove to find myself. And so if this artwork is a metaphor for finding yourself, I love that she's getting bigger. It's getting back to what we were talking about at the beginning, is like she gets bigger and bigger and expands. She grows into herself and she's taking up space. And so I'm wondering how I can talk about this, how I can, when I talk about like the layers I had to remove, like how can I talk about that in a way that, because I do feel bigger than I did then. I removed like a layer of shame, a layer of social anxiety, a layer of perfectionism, of being trying to be who everyone wants me to be rather than who I am. It was removing layers. Oh, maybe those layers were like weighted.
I'm seeing blankets
Yeah.
on you.
Yeah. And everything I removed was a weight, and then that allowed me to expand. I really like this expansion idea.
I do too. I think the image is super powerful that
Yeah.
of her growing into her self.
Yeah. It also kind of makes me want to think like when I am feeling any sort of like lack of confidence or anxiety or anything that kind of comes up, that if like I sit and like imagine myself bigger and like projecting out and like expanding out, like that feels really powerful. Uh it's almost like pushing away those feelings of lack of confidence. It's like pushing them out and allowing them to expel.
So are you expanding energetically or in your physical being when you're expanding?
Let me think, like what am I imagining? I think it's what it feels like to me. Or like both sitting here with our eyes closed, like imagining it. It's like pushing out, like filling up my body more. Like my body isn't getting bigger, but like my energy in my body is expanding all the way to like to my skin, to everything, like, and even outwards energetically. Um
instead of sucking ourselves in to try to make
Yeah.
ourselves smaller, we're actually saying we are a full woman. We're
Yeah.
gonna let ourselves be like in our fullness, in our wholeness.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I'm feeling. And also like then it extends beyond our body, but we're not sucking ourselves in, we're not being
Hmm.
quiet, we're not asking permission, we're not
Hmm.
saying I don't have a voice at this table or wherever we are. I don't know why I'm
Yeah.
thinking about parenting so much, but just like being confident in all ways.
Yeah. I love it. Did you have a specific parenting like thought or example that came up right then?
Just like when like okay, if your adult children make choices. I'm just going to use a generic um in life, and you might not agree with them, or they might be something like if you have to start making choices, or I've had to of like, do I parent here, or do I
Mm,
ignore this, or and I really struggle with that because I wanted to be close with my children, and so sometimes it's you want to like when they're living in your home, you can say go clean up your room or don't do this and don't do that. When they're adults, it's a little different because there is a risk that they might not want to spend time with you or call you, or if you start being too parenty all the time. So I really struggled with that, but then there's something in me that says no, you're still their parent and they still need you to say I think you're out of line, or I don't think you're doing the right thing. Like I've had to be that direct, that was hard for me to do that, but I've given myself permission now to say if I feel like that, like that's my gift that I give my child as their mother, is to say I love you enough to tell you the truth, even if it risks our relationship, and it hasn't. And that's very exciting too, to say, well, I can do this and say what is real because I love this person so much and they still want me in their life. So
yeah.
I've that's been a kind of a recent experience for me.
Yeah, I love that because it's that like I keep thinking of the wholeness word and also like being like fully embodied, like you're in and you're whole and you're okay. And when you are in that place, you can, yeah, it was like in that example, like you were able to speak your truth without fear and without diminishing any part of who you are, without shrinking, like you were fully like owning who you are. And I think that's what's happening with this woman at the top, is she's just fully like owning who she is, and she's whole as she is, um and she knows that like she trusts in that like fullness of herself. I love that.
Because she's experienced it. So since since she's traveled up the staircase and everything, all those experiences, she now knows in her body um what feels true and what doesn't feel
Mm,
true. And so when she's doing something, trying doing, holding herself back and shrinking, she knows what it feels like to not do that. And so
yeah.
that feels so uncomfortable. Then she's going to say, wait a minute, this isn't quite right. How do I get back to the feeling that I know already because I've proved it to myself, because I have walked up the staircase. And
Yeah.
I know now, that when I'm in my truth and authenticity from this place of love, I know what that feels like, and I
Oh,
want to be there.
yes. Oh, I love it. Okay. Well, we've been talking about an hour, so we probably should wrap it up. I always like, oh, can we keep going? 'Cause okay, so is there anything though, looking at this, that you feel like we didn't say, or that like is something that's like been bubbling and that you haven't had a chance to say,
I mean,
or
I
you
guess
feel pretty
the
complete?
only other thing that I was thinking, and I totally agree. Like I've loved this conversation, and it's been like surprisingly fun. I don't know
Yeah.
why I'm surprised, but maybe because I was tired today. Um, the plants are growing out of the rocks, and there doesn't look like there's a lot of soil. And I always love that kind of metaphor where like plants
Mm.
grow out of like these hard places. And so that's the only other
Oh
thing that I'm
yeah.
thinking about. But no, a really fun conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was for me too. And I'm like, we talked about so much that I'm like, oh man, I can't go back and change that chapter at all. But there's some new metaphors that, like, because now I'm looking at this as that this is a metaphor for the whole book, and I think that's so exciting to me. Like this shit, like the whole journey to wholeness is what the book is about. It's called Art is About Being Whole, and we got like that. That's what we ended up with, like the interpretation of becoming whole and what it means to be whole. And I think that is really exciting. And really beautiful. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast. And sorry it took like a year before I got you on here, but you're right. This was the right timing for it.
Yeah, it was worth the wait. I can't wait to read the chapter. I want to go read it right now. See what you thought about this.
Like it's pretty. I think it's early in the book, so you'll get there sooner rather than later. I think it's like the fifth or sixth chapter, maybe. So before we leave, though, tell our listeners if they're a business and they want to follow you and see more about your work, where can they find you?
They can find me at Love Your Numbers Now. And that's what it is on the website and the social channels. And there's a free subscription tracker on the website if they want to get started looking at their numbers and getting closer with their numbers. They can get that for free.
Awesome. Yeah. And Carol writes lovely emails. So you definitely want to be on our email list regardless, because they're very inspirational and helpful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I share a lot about life and business and just whatever I'm thinking about. So it's been really fun. Yeah. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you thank you for having me. I'm literally the one hosting right now. Thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to Art and Self. And if you love listening to these insightful conversations and want more connected content about connecting with art, I invite you to check out my new book, Art is About Being Whole, a memoir, coming out on October 31st, 2023. You can get more information and sign up for book updates at artisaboutbeingwhole.com. Also, please consider leaving me a rating or a review on iTunes and share this episode with one friend who needs to hear what we talked about today. You'll find links to the artworks we discussed over on the show notes, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook by searching Cindy Ingram Art and Self. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time.